Hey, yo, what's up on the Real Sports Talk? What's good in sports, the internet? What's good in life? I'm Akeem Balaam, and I already previewed the AFC Championship game and gave my prediction on what will happen with the Baltimore Ravens and New England Patriots from Foxborough. Now it's time to move on to the NFC Championship game, which would be taking place, of course, from Atlanta's Georgia Dome, with the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, before I go into this matchup, I just want to go into, of course, what happened last week. Of course, the San Francisco 49ers playing at home against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, and Colin Kaepernick had that just absolutely unbelievable game he had last week. Of course, it kind of looked like that maybe the nerves were getting to him in the beginning, but after that, it was the Colin Kaepernick show, and the Packers were just living in his world. 180 plus rushing yards, 230, if I'm not mistaken, 230 plus passing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. At 180 plus rushing yards is actually a record for a quarterback as far as rushing yards are concerned. So everybody in San Francisco is just all over Colin Kaepernick in a good way, and they've just totally forgotten, of course, whom that other guy was, whom Jim Harbaugh wound up making hold a clipboard after that injury. So all of a sudden, Colin Kaepernick has led the San Francisco 49ers back to where they were last year, which was the NFC Championship game when they lost to the New York Giants. But they're back once again. Jim Harbaugh once again looks like a genius, and if you consider that what happened last week and the way that offense looks, especially with Colin Kaepernick running it of the way that he's playing, I would see why many are picking the San Francisco 49ers to go on the road into the Dome and defeat the Atlanta Falcons, a traditionally dome team, even though they, I guess they can perhaps win anyway. They're 13-3 for a reason. But there's a reason why so many people are picking them, because when you look at their rankings, they're not only the #1 ranked offense, they're also the #1 ranked defense. And that's something that the Falcons are definitely going to have to contend with, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But also looking back at what happened with the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks, the Falcons had that game won at halftime. They were up 20-0 on the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Westbrook, why do we keep saying Russell Westbrook when I want to say Russell Wilson? I always get the two mixed up. But anyway, Russell Wilson looked like, he kind of looked like a rookie in certain areas, in that game. Maybe it was getting to him. There was some clock management errors, some rookie mistakes that he made through interceptions. And then in the second half, and particularly in that fourth quarter, he started to really pick it up. And the Seahawks started to come back. And then there was that one really egregious interception that Matt Ryan threw that really made it a game. And the only good thing that happened, really, the only good result, of course, they wound up winning the game. Of course, the Atlanta Falcons, that's one good result. But another good thing that the Falcons did in that game was that they held beast mode to Marshawn Lynch. They only held him, if I'm not mistaken, to 46 rushing yards, if I'm not mistaken, on 14 carries. I think that those stats may be a little bit wrong, but the truth of the matter is this: the point, you get my point. They held Marshawn Lynch down. He was unable to do nothing. They made Russell Wilson throw, and for the most part, especially in that fourth quarter, it looked like that he really was able to throw. They almost gave up that game, which is why when you look at when you compare the Seattle Seahawks offense to that of the San Francisco 49ers offense and the way that they run with Kaepernick and Gore and everybody else that they got on their team, Vernon Davis, even Randy Moss occasionally, even though he's old and everything as far as that's concerned. But when you look at the way that they run that offense, there's a reason why a lot of people are picking the San Francisco 49ers to defeat the Atlanta Falcons. But of course, the Falcons have a pretty impressive offense of their own. Of course, with Matt Ryan, and also with Michael Turner, who all of a sudden we finally saw him. There's so many in Atlanta. I've always been talking about this guy by the name of Jacquizz Rodgers, but all of a sudden there was a Michael Turner sighting last week, even though not too many people would have been talking about it if they had lost that game. But also The key, of course, as we all know, the whole nucleus of the Falcons offense is their receiving core. Roddy White, Julio Jones, Tony Gonzalez, whom everybody's talking about the Ray Lewis stories, and I talk about this all the time. What about Tony Gonzalez possibly going out in his last season? He'll be going to the Hall of Fame, unarguably perhaps, greatest tight end of all time. What about him having the opportunity to retire and go out with a championship? So definitely that's something that that the Falcons have going for them as well. I kind of don't think that they're just right there up there with, say, Anquan Bolden and Torrey Smith, maybe a step below, maybe a step above, but definitely the Falcons receiving core, without a doubt, one of the best in the NFL. So just like we were talking about the Seattle Seahawks secondary last week, definitely a lot of pressure on the San Francisco 49ers secondary to try and hold Julio Jones and Roddy White down. So who do I think is going to win this game at the end? Well, of course, this is one of those, sort of like what the Falcons had to contend with last week against Seattle. This is sort of one of those, dare I say, irresistible force meeting immovable object matchups. A high-powered, high-octane offense going up against a ferocious, dangerous defense in the San Francisco 49ers. The Falcons have got to contend with Jonte Whitner and Patrick Willis, and the offensive line of the Falcons, of course, they got to make sure that Matt Ryan doesn't get put on his backside via Aldon Smith, since he's second in the National Football League, just behind J.J. Watt in sacks. So who do I think is going to win this game in the end? It is at home. And even though the Falcons did try to make it a Seahawks-49ers NFC Championship game, I'm still going to pick the Atlanta Falcons at home. I think that they will indeed pull this one out. I think Matt Ryan got a lot of pressure off of himself. I think the Falcons organization got a lot of pressure off themselves when they got that win last week, even though it should have never been that close. But I am picking the Atlanta Falcons to win this game. And also, I guess you can say selfishly, just so I can keep my Super Bowl pick intact, since I originally picked Ravens-Falcons at the beginning of the year. So other than that, I'm picking the Falcons to go to the Super Bowl, to go down to New Orleans. Are you picking them, or are you picking the San Francisco 49ers? Because there's a lot of reason to pick them, but I'm going with Atlanta. But who are you going with? Rate, comment, react, reply, add, and subscribe. I look forward to reading your comments as always. Falcons fans, 49er fans, what you think? Hit me back, hit us back on The Real Sports Talk. So until next time, NFC Championship game this Sunday. It can't get here soon enough. Until next time, I'm Akeem Balaam. See you football fans on the internet someplace.